Let's move on to political matters now. The South African Communist Party has a new boss. The party's first Deputy General Secretary, Mapaila, has emerged victorious. Mapaila takes over the reins from Nzimande, who's been occupying the seat for 24 years. The eNCA's Govan Whittles is in Boksburg covering the conference for us. So voting was taking place when you and I caught up earlier this morning, Govan. Has the voting concluded? Do we have a sense of whether Nzimande will become the chairperson of the SACP yet?
The voting, it looks like, is done. People have cast their votes, but they're still busy counting the outcome of that vote. And we'll get to that outcome in a short while. We're expecting that to be announced in the main plenary. But it's the last day of the conference, and it's time to reflect on how the conference has gone and what the future holds for the SACP. Joining me is the outgoing chairperson of the South African Communist Party, Mr. Nzimande. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Zokwana. So it's the last day. There's been a lot that's happened here, aside from the voting, which we'll get to in a moment. What are your reflections of this 14th conference?
I think the conference has gone very well. Comrades were robust in the discussions, but disciplined. They worked within the rules and the framework of the conference. Of course, we are here now in this stage of contestations. They don't reflect divisions. They reflect that the provinces have nominated in the manner they have done. The challenge is that the emerging officials has a duty to make sure that all party cadres and members rally behind the party and re-establish the culture of the South African Communist Party.
Yeah, you say it doesn't really reflect divisions. There have been some concern about the contestation, and those concerns were raised in the political report of the former General Secretary, Nzimande, saying that he's concerned that factions may be seeping in. Do you think that what we're seeing here is the factions having seeped into the party?
I don't think so, because all the contestation is between party leaders. So I wouldn't see it as a faction. I don't think factions have been so explicitly clear within the party. But one would not deny the fact that maybe if we don't work very cautiously in unifying the party beyond this conference, and the obligation on the emerging leadership will be to make sure that we unify the party. The role of the General Secretary will be to make sure that the position of the party and its work is done, and they will need the support of each and every leader of the party.
Mapaila is coming into that position as a number of the long-serving leaders such as yourself are now leaving that position or the top table. What kind of direction do you think he's expected to take the party in?
We have to face the current situation of a weak and divided African National Congress. And the party should make sure, therefore, that we come with solutions to such. We become the moral compass that the ANC should focus to try to reclaim itself.
Thank you so much. That's Nzimande Zokwana. He's the outgoing national chairperson of the South African Communist Party. Let me bring in here the General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers, General Secretary William Mabapa. He'll speak to us just a little bit more about what's been floated around as being called ESCOM 2, Mr. Mabapa. The announcement yesterday, or more of a comment by the President and then followed up by the Minister, Mantashe, that they'll work on a cabinet memorandum to see how such a new entity could be established. As the NUM, what's your view on this?
I think as NUM, we were embracing a situation where we were saying that we do not want an ESCOM that has been unbundled, and because our view was that if ESCOM is unbundled, that is a precursor to privatization. And I'm sure the proposal that was raised by the President, further raised by the Minister of Minerals, probably will meet us halfway, because ours is about privatization. What we don't want is privatization. If you tell us that you will establish another ESCOM, that will be state-owned enterprise, probably we won't be hostile to that approach, because that is not privatization.
Based on how you've seen the government manage ESCOM right now, do you have faith in them to start another power generation utility and run it properly?
Look, I take that running a utility like ESCOM is an effort that needs leadership. I will say that we are in a situation where all of us have witnessed ESCOM that was well run, ESCOM that was the best, and I'm sure we can say that we once had an ESCOM that is the best, therefore, because today the ESCOM that is there is not good. At all costs, ESCOM must be privatized. We don't want something like ESCOM. So from time to time, one has got a view that says that it takes, it's the leadership that is driving where things must go. Yes, we are observing that not only ESCOM, all SOEs are not in good hands. They are not well managed. But to us, that is not the last resort of how we must take decisions. Ours is that at certain point, those SOEs were well managed. Those SOEs were the best. And we still believe that there are men and women who can manage those SOEs without them being privatized. Because the question is, if they are privatized, they are still going to be managed, and they are still going to be managed by people. Then why are we not getting the very same people that can manage them during a privatization, but still manage them as state-owned enterprise? Because we know for a fact that, for example, ESCOM, the commodity that is supplied by ESCOM electricity, it is something that we can privatize it, because when we privatize it, from time to time the private will put a 20 cent, a 10 cent, a 1 rand, and at the end of the day we will have a highly unaffordable and unsubsidized electricity that not everybody can afford. And that is where our biggest concern is, that we'll have electricity that is unaffordable if privatized.
All right, thank you so much. That's William Mabapa. He's the General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers. And the SACP also saying they'll guard against any privatization or attempts at privatization of ESCOM. NUM, they're welcoming any move to start another ESCOM, as long as it's state-owned, they say. And here at the SACP conference, it's almost time to go back into the main plenary, where we'll see the results of that election and who has been elected the new chairperson of the SACP after the General Secretary was confirmed as Solly Mapaila. For now, it's back to you.
And of course, we'll wait for you to give us those results as they trickle in. Govan Whittles there. Very interesting argument about privatization, saying that it will make electricity unaffordable to the basic South African or the ordinary South African. I mean, it's already unaffordable. So there's very little that can be done to steer away from possible solutions, which may or may not include privatization.